So supposedly a change is coming when it comes to ICP. Now, this is not even according to me. Supposedly, Dfinity very recently made this post saying how the economics of the internet computer are changing. Now, nothing I say is financial advice. However, they go on to say how, in terms of the old model, it says how node providers basically they earned just for running nodes, right? However, in the new model, 80% of Cloud Engine revenue supposedly goes to the nodes powering it. However, 20% burns ICP. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Burning ICP? Now, the thing is this. If I take a look at, let's say in theory, I'm not even saying it has anything to do with this. If let's say a project, right? If through burning the supply is lower, what happens if there's high demand? Usually, arguably, people like to say, oh, it becomes a lot more rare. Also, on top of that, at the hypothetical idea of $100 when it comes to ICP, if it were to do that, considering its current circulating supply, at that point, the market cap would be around $55 billion. The thing is this. If, let's say, for whatever reason, I'm not even saying this is the case, by the way, in just a random make-believe hypothetical scenario, if for whatever reason we remove 10% of the circulating supply when it comes to ICP, let's say, for whatever reason, let's say maybe it's through burning or whatever, but I'm saying, let's say that is the case. What happens now to reach $100, the market cap would only be around 50 billion because we removed 10% of the circulating supply in this random make-believe scenario. So in theory, right, it would have an easier time going to 100 just because in this make-believe scenario, the supply, or should I say the current circulating supply, becomes lower. So why would this be a bad thing? It's not a bad thing, actually, in my perspective. But some people like to tell me, oh, it may not be such a good thing or not such a positive thing because as of right now, ICP is just not doing the best. But again, if this implementation, for whatever reason, right, the supposed change when it comes to the internet computer, if we do see a lot of burning when it comes to ICP, why not? In my perspective, in terms of if the project can arguably become more rare through a reduced supply. So, yeah, I'm not going to complain about that, but this is just personally my perspective, right? I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is just my mindset as of right now. So when people like to tell me, oh, we're around 47 times lower than 100 when it comes to ICP. Yeah, I understand that. But I'm looking to dollar cost average. So if I could dollar cost average at a lower point, why not? Personally, for me, I am not telling anyone to do anything. But also on top of that, when I take a look at the things that Dfinity supposedly has planned for ICP and just kind of what they're doing for the internet computer overall, I'm still a fan. I just don't want to give up like that. This is personally my mindset. And furthermore, if I take a look at, let's say, the internet computer, sure, it's not really kind of, I think, viewed as a revolutionary type of project. However, I think arguably, if let's say there's a hypothetical altcoin season and a specific, right, narrative becomes prevalent, which is if let's say the narrative of things being on chain becomes, for whatever reason, a narrative, that I think could play into the favor of something like the internet computer. The reason why is because Dfinity, they really have this emphasis of wanting to have things run fully on chain. In which case, if we take a look at it, a lot of other projects out there, they don't really have this sort of mentality. So if let's say something like the internet computer, and we take a look at Dfinity and what it has planned for the internet computer, if that narrative is already set in place, and for whatever reason that narrative becomes suddenly a trend during a hypothetical altcoin season, ICP is already waiting right there. It's waiting in the wings, basically. It's already anticipating the wave. It's not trying to chase it later on, if for whatever reason that's a narrative. And the key word is if, right? It doesn't mean it will be, but it's a hypothetical scenario. It's like, for instance, why do a lot of projects out there, why don't they really care about things being fully on chain in a lot of cases that I do see? It's because a lot of them, quite frankly, are just not fully equipped to handle something like that. Sometimes that type of stuff requires a lot of computational demand, in which a lot of projects out there don't really have a focus on the enterprise market or really just kind of made one for fun or something like that. They sometimes didn't really think about this type of stuff. It's like, for instance, there's many amazing two-story buildings, but those two-story buildings, the foundation was built for a two-story building. It's a different ecosystem if it's a 10-story building. When I take a look at it, some projects out there, they're designed to be a 2-story building. Nothing wrong with that. But some other projects out there, they're designed to handle 10 stories, 20 stories, 30. So it's a little bit of a different vibe. It's kind of a little bit of a different ecosystem. That's the way you take a look at it. It's like comparing a home to a skyscraper. But yeah, besides that point, if I take a look at their computer, I do like their narrative overall. I personally haven't given up. And I do like the implementations that Dfinity also has been doing when it comes to Caffeine AI, because remember when Caffeine AI became a thing and a lot of people thought it was pretty cool? They're already thinking about version 3, by the way. They decided to bypass like version 2 and just go straight up to version 3. And supposedly I do like that hypothetical plan when it comes to Dfinity. I thought that was pretty cool that they even talked about version 3 when it comes to Caffeine AI. People like to say no one cares about version 1, let alone why would anyone care if, let's say, version 3 becomes a big narrative. Well, okay, it may not matter right now, but it could matter later on because it's a self-writing apps platform, right? Caffeine AI, in which case it's not the best timing as of right now. However, I actually think it's good timing for the longevity of the project, but it's not such a good timing in a sense where when compared to the sentiment of the altcoin space, because what happens if the sentiment usually isn't the best when it comes to the space overall, not just for altcoins, but I'm saying for the space overall? Developers, they usually don't want to do things, right? Because why would they want to build in a space where the sentiment isn't doing the best? Sometimes that's the argument. So of course, Caffeine AI, when people like to tell me, oh, the adoption isn't the best, well, yeah, how could it? It didn't launch at a time when developers naturally want to launch things to begin with. However, what happens if there is a change in sentiment? What happens if there is a moment in time in which developers want to start building a lot of things again? It's waiting right there. So I feel like a lot of the things that Dfinity has kind of planned is all in anticipation of a change in sentiment. So yeah, overall, I haven't given up. I'm still waiting, still staying patient. That's pretty much about it. However, when it comes to the internet computer, I'm just not going to give up like that personally. Sure, there's other competitors like a Solana, like let's say an Ethereum, BNB Chain. I take a look at Cardano, Algorand. I mean, there's a bunch. But at the same time, if we take a look at the world of cars, is there only one car brand? It's like, for instance, I'm using a G-Shock, right? If we take a look at it right here, this is the G-Shock GW 5000 HS, by the way. It's actually made in Japan, got it from Japan, but besides that point, is this the only watch brand out there, a G-Shock? No. Is Volvo the only car brand out there? The answer is no. They don't have to be the most popular. So the thing is, if I take a look at something like the internet computer, does it need to become the best? Arguably, probably not, but it doesn't need to anyways. In the world of watches, for instance, sometimes becoming top 10, top 20 is already very impressive. So the internet computer does not need to overtake something like Ethereum, in my opinion. But as long as it's like pretty popular, why is that a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing actually. So yeah, not every project out there has to become number one. There's only one project at number one usually. So when I take a look at this, I just don't want to give up, and I'm going to still stay patient, hold. That's pretty much about it. However, I want to say thank you for watching. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll see you all in the next one. I'll be sure to make more updated videos when it comes to ICP. So hopefully I'll see you all there. I'm out. Peace. Bye.